Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Trekking Faith, where we not only explore strange new worlds, but we explore the faith that weaves through them. I'm your host, John Lane, and today we are going to be diving into Season 4, Episode 3 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, The Visitor. It first aired on October 9th, 1995, and was written by Michael Taylor and directed by David Livingston. The episode begins when a mysterious woman arrives at the house of an elderly man to whom she's read all his stories, that man being Jake Sisko, the son of Captain Benjamin Sisko. She asks why Jake had stopped writing, mostly due to the fact that he wasn't even 40 when he stopped. He jokingly says that he lost his favorite pen, but then goes on to tell her about his father and how they were so close due to the death of their mother many years prior. We then cut to the present day where Jake and Sisko are on board the Defiant to witness a wormhole anomaly that only happens every 40 to 50 years or so. Jake is so focused on writing his next story that Captain Sisko, his father, has to remind him to poke his head up every once in a while to see what is going on around him. He tells him, "It's life, Jake. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes." The Defiant then runs into a complication that requires Ben and Jake to adjust a console in the warp core. Suddenly, a burst of energy zaps Ben, causing him to disappear, potentially killing him. We then cut to a few days later where a funeral is held for him on the station, and eventually everything goes back to normal on the station for mostly everyone except Jake. However, one night, a few months after his passing, Captain Benjamin Sisko shows up in physical form in the middle of the night, right in front of Jake's bed. When they take him to sickbay to see if there's anything wrong with him, he disappears shortly after, right in front of Jake again, making him lose his father basically a second time. He then appears to Jake once more before Jake leaves the station months later due to rising tensions with the Klingons and the Cardassians, telling Jake to live his life and to let him know that he will be alright. At this point, we cut back to old Jake where he tells the Visitor that he is dying. More on that later. Back in the present day, Jake leaves the station and years pass where he is now an adult with a writing career, a wife named Karina, and his best friend Nog, now in Starfleet, coming to visit him as well. Later on, Sisko reappears into existence with Jake apologizing for lack of trying to bring him back. Ben claims that no one could have held out hope for that long in terms of, bringing him back from the void, and is proud of what Jake has done with his life, even asking Jake for when he could expect grandchildren. However, Jake claims that none of it really matters because his father's still out there somewhere where he can still be found, not really able to move on from what happened still. And with that, Sisko once again disappears again into the void, not to be seen for many more years. It wouldn't be until after this latest appearance that Jake realizes that there's a pattern to his disappearances, to which he then devotes the next many years of his life studying subspace mechanics and recruits Nog, Bashir, and Dax along with the Defiant from Mothballs to return to the station at the exact calculated time that Ben would be phased back into existence again. And Ben Sisko does return, but both him and Jake get pulled into subspace while Jake is frantically figuring out what is going on. And I should probably clear this up too. When I say subspace, it's like this white void basically. It's this, I guess, kind of dimension where time doesn't exist. It's why Ben Sisko doesn't age very well. But they call it subspace in the episode, and we're going to call it here. But anyway, Ben wants to know what's new with him, whether he has any grandchildren. And Jake tells his father that he and Karina separated after he devoted his life to finding his father. And as Jake is getting pulled back into the real world, his father, saddened that he kind of threw away his life, made him promise to build his life back up again, continue to write, continue to pursue his passions, and to make a better life for himself. And when Jake gets pulled back to reality, many more years pass by, and Jake honors his father's wishes and goes back to writing and writes a new collection of short stories, even to which he gives the handwritten notes to the aspiring writer. Jake proceeds to give her the same advice as his father once gave him as well. Poke your head up in life. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes. For the final time, Ben Sisko appears to Jake one last time, telling him that he is happy that he continued to live his life and even go back to writing. And remember when I told you guys earlier in the episode that Jake said he was dying? Well, we're at this point now. Right before Ben reappeared, Jake took a vial of poison, killing himself, so that way Ben Sisko would reappear in the engine room, dodge the energy charge, and avoid the entire incident. Because the way this whole subspace worked basically if Jake died at a time when his father would reappear, they're both linked in a way to where if Jake dies, Ben is taken back into the real world at the time of the accident. It's kind of confusing, but again, it's Star Trek. There's a lot of scientific stuff that doesn't seem to be very fallible either, but we just go with it. So we're going with it. But yes, overall, the episode ends. Ben Sisko dodges the energy discharge, and he is reunited with his son. Overall, this episode had a pretty simple moral in that it gives us a picture of what someone might be going through when losing a loved one, especially a parent. The main thing that I'm focused with this is how we continue to live our lives afterwards. Throughout the episode, I found that Jake had a really hard time moving on with his life after his father's passing, being in a depressed state constantly and holding on to things of the past, like living on the station, because it was the one place he called home with his father. And he eventually does move on temporarily, and as seen with him getting married and writing, but as his father kept reappearing, it reminded him that he was still out there, and there was still maybe a minuscule chance to bring him back, but not really a big chance, but still that small chance. And for me, it kind of represented a nagging memory in that you will always remember the people who passed, but you can never physically be with them again. And in Jake's case, he was able to, but only for a few minutes, and then not again for several more years. Ben reappearing to him all these years, it kind of represented a reoccurring memory, and guilt over being able to help his father holds him back from really living his life to where he ditches everything that makes him who he is, like writing and his creativity in pursuit of a goal that in reality may be this much of a chance he'll succeed, but not very attainable. I think one verse for me that kind of stands out in this situation is Matthew 6, verse 27, where Jesus talks about why we should not worry in life, as life is more important than the material things that we have. And in the verse he states, "Can any one of you by worrying add a single hour to your life?" Jesus talks about worrying about material things in life, but I think it can apply here in a way as well. By Jake spending his life going after someone and trying to bring them back when they are truly gone, or in the real life sense, still feeling guilty about their deaths years afterwards, Jake is essentially worrying about things that he should put to rest and move forward with his life. As his father made him promise, live your life the best you can. Still remember me, but live it the best you can, because he would want Jake to live the best life. And during the time of Jake's depression earlier on in the episode, I was also reminded of Luke 6:21, where Jesus is teaching a large crowd of people. And there the verse states, "Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh." Another verse in Jeremiah 29, verse 11 states, "This as well, for I know the plans I have in you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." These verses definitely reminded me that there are times where we will mourn and we will not want to go forward. But God is always there with us through good and bad times. He assures us that we can still live and prosper through him, even when people close to us pass on. To conclude on this episode now, I found it to be very enlightening to how we handle matters such as losing loved ones, and how even in our most saddened states, we can count on God being there for us every step of the way to help us grow, to mourn, and to move forward while also remembering the ones we lost. Jake did not exactly grasp on to the moral of this until his later years, after years of trying. Granted, the episode ends with them being reunited in the present day, but in reality for us, we don't really get that second chance in the physical form like Jake did. However, seen through his life in the episode, it is never too late to move forward with your life and live your life in the fullest way possible, while also remembering the people who are no longer with you. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Trek and Faith.